and then something's revealed, and then it's being trivialized, and the action goes on and that kind of stuff. But in every movie, the ones we're talking about, there's always one moment where everything's revealed and the truth is told without any Hollywood effects, and then the movie continues.
Yeah, my favorite scene in the Adjustment Bureau is the scene where he meets Terence Stamp, because I think one of the most important things you should do as a screenwriter is have your villain, well, he's not so much of a villain, but have your antagonist give a compelling argument or motivation for why they do what they do. And he says the reason we don't have free will is because we can't be trusted. And he says that when we did have free will, we had the Dark Ages.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. He explains in the history of his life how he's always trying to get Emily, and yeah.
It's quite funny, and it's hard to argue with his motivations. In the mythology of Gnosticism, you have the demiurge and you have his archons, who are like his sort of underlings, and they're not good. They're evil by all accounts, and they should be regarded as an enemy to humanity. But those who work for the Adjustment Bureau, they're kind of archons, in the same way that the agents from the Matrix are archons, or the strangers from Dark City. You've got the production crew in the Truman Show. But in this film, they're not evil. They're benevolent. They're stuffy bureaucrats.
Exactly, the bureaucrats. That's what they are.
I mean, the film ultimately is about how you can transcend your destiny or fate and escape from the system of control, which is very Gnostic. And I like the performances in this film. All the cast are pretty good. I think there is great chemistry with Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. As a love story, it works really well. But I remember buying it on Blu-ray a few years ago and being a bit underwhelmed by it. But after this Gnostic experience, it does take on a new light, and like a lot of these films do, and that's why I'm keen to rewatch them.
Realized recently that I go back to old movies. I watched Truman Show a few weeks ago again, and every time I watch it, I find something else in it, and they change the meaning and everything. But they usually get deeper. But the more I watch them, the deeper they get with time, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I've done the Truman Show already, and I was kicking myself because I actually failed to mention it on the podcast with Miguel. But the strange parallels with Jim Carrey, like what's going on with him, it's almost like life imitating art, art imitating life thing, because he had his own spiritual awakening by the looks of it. He looks like he's woken up it did look like he'd woken up with the strange interviews that he was having. Only strange from other people's perspectives. But I had a rumor that he was supposed to be playing Terence McKenna in a movie, and he took magic mushrooms to prepare for the role and research. And he woke up as a result of it, and he did all that weird shit on a chat show talking about the Illuminati. But he seems a bit more grounded now.
The next day after taping that thing with him revealing the Illuminati, his ex-girlfriend was killed. So he got the message and he just stopped. So this is what they do. They'll tell you not to mess with them. Well, you could see on Kimmel's face that he was panicking. Like he absolutely didn't know whether he should join him in making fun of this. But yeah, they're very quick. It's when you do something like this, it happened many times before. Carrie wasn't the first one. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird about how he starred in a film that's about waking up spiritually. I mean, that's the subtext of the Truman Show, and then he did in real life. But even Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind has got similar themes to the Adjustment Bureau in regards to a surrounding reality trying to stop your love or trying to stop what you're trying to gain from life. I mean, that's what I thought anyway. But when I was watching the Adjustment Bureau, I thought, I have seen this film, especially the Third Act, I've seen this film done better. It made me wish that Michael Gondry, who directed The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, had directed this film instead, or adapted the story, because I think he would have done something really special, especially with the Third Act. But I mean, I'm not slagging off the Adjustment Bureau, but I think it could have been done better. But once again, it works in expressing these metaphysical ideas. That and The Truman Show are both a nicer retelling of Gnosticism.
The original concept for The Truman Show was supposed to be very dark. And I think they switch between these concepts. I'm not sure if you know how it works in Hollywood. If you follow the script writing process and then the approval, how it undergoes all types of changes, these movies start usually very, very differently. They start as something completely different. And they go through a process of so many approvals and alterations and so many rejections that what you get in the end is absolutely, it has nothing to do with the initial concept. And both the Adjustment Bureau and the Truman Show, there is something very, very different. You can tell. Very often you'll find the core of the concept in it, but it will be dressed in this pop type of, cotton candy type of Hollywood nonsense. And there's always, it needs to be put in this little box of kind of a template for Hollywood movies where you need to have a character undergoing a metamorphosis, a change, some sort of awakening. And there are a few other elements, but it needs to be put in this. I don't know why they insist on having this. There must be a reason for this, but it all looks the same. In the same way as all music in pop culture is made of 4 chords, in the same way every movie is made of the same few elements. So yeah, they usually start as something very different.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, but he devised the monomyth, this idea that every culture have these stories that follow the same sort of narrative pattern. Someone is in a place of comfort. You've got like Luke Skywalker or Frodo, and then there is a call to adventure, and then there's this wizard type character, and there's usually metaphysical ideas going on in the background and supernatural things going on. And it's amazing how that story structure is basically in our DNA. That's why these films become the most successful, because they really resonate with modern audiences.
Business, they figured out a long time ago what it is that people enjoy, and they try to sell it to everybody. It has changed now because people are fed up with this. But if you look at Matrix, you look at Hunger Games, it's the same movie.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey. The Matrix is a great example of that, actually, because it was able to incorporate Gnostic themes, which really resonates with people.
Well, Hunger Games does exactly the same thing, but it incorporates the change of the main character in terms of love and self-discovery. It doesn't deal with metaphysics. It's just a different side, but it's the same movie. If you look at this, it's exactly the same structure.
A lot of these films are about taking down an empire of some sort. It's always some sort of tyrannical, totalitarian empire. And it's anarchy, basically.
Isn't that interesting that these movies come from the tyrants and we watch them sitting at home doing nothing while rooting and cheerleading for the characters that we should be playing ourselves?
Maybe that's always been a part of the eternal plan, that when more people do start to wake up, they will remember all of these films were trying to wake us up, to remind us that we can rise up on top of these empires. I mean, every empire falls eventually.
I think it's a preemptive action to fill this need for justice. I think once you watch it, it's those who make these movies, they figure it out a long time ago. They know everything about human psyche. They know more about us than we know ourselves.
Yeah.
So they know that once you watch it, you feel satisfied with the sense of justice being done. You don't need to turn on CNN and learn about what the tyrants are doing to us now. Everything's good because the movie showed me that it's good. And I think if it wasn't for these movies, we would be rebelling more. Maybe, I'm not sure. But it depends who watches it, because I watched Hunger Games and recently. I just rewatched it. And after watching this, I realized that it's a great movie, by the way. I thought it was just a story with Jennifer Lawrence. But then I watched it and I was like, no, that's a bit deeper. I even started reading the book. And I made this video called "You're Not Sheep, You're Not Cattle." And that video went like 24,000 people who uploaded it to their channels, and it spread. So I don't know if they know what they're doing, but I think it's slowly backfiring. And there's a lot of people like me who are starting planting seeds and awakening others. So it might have been a bit of a move that they didn't think about. They make a lot of mistakes. That's not the only one. So.
I mean, if this Illuminati does exist, maybe they're here to play a part in waking people up. I know it's a horrible idea to entertain, but maybe these are evil. For us to all collectively wake up, that these events have to happen in the way that they do, with these these people pulling the strings. But I mean, I
Horrible. No, if you, I mean, it's undoubtedly now, it's coming out slowly. It's without shadow of a doubt, it's clear that the world is ruled by psychopaths. And the question you need to ask now is whether it's coincidental, whether it's just an accident that these people, I don't know, someone discovered oil a long time ago, dug it up, and then started a big business that then allowed them to make money and take over control of the banks. And then that allowed them to gain even more power. And then eventually they took control of everything in the world. And that was just a coincidence. And it turns out that these people were crazy, gave birth to more crazy people, and then created a power structure of just psychopaths. And now we are where we are because of that. Or whether it's what their ideology, this Satanism that they believe in, says that humans need, and again, we go back to the architect scene in Matrix, that creating a world, because they are controlling the world now. They can do whatever they want. They've already designed the world for us. And they could create a world which is a utopia. Everything's beautiful. Everything works great. They can free the technology, allow us not to work anymore, and we would just be painters and artists and poets. But maybe we're not fulfilling our metaphysical destiny. Maybe our job is to fight evil, and that's how we develop as as this true metaphysical form. That's what your job here is. Maybe they know about the nature of this training simulation here. Maybe they designed it. Maybe that's somebody above them. We don't know that, but there is this idea in Satanism that it's not 100% Satanism. It's this idea that they have these people in power, apparently, Illuminati or whatever you call them, that you need to create chaos in order to for people to wake up, and it's a call for action. And they even put it in Latin on the dollar bills. It's called order out of chaos. It says it in there. The Freemasons have it everywhere written. So it might be that, because if you start thinking about this and realize that it's all evil and crazy, but it's not. It's this evil is structured. It's well organized. There's something behind it, and it cannot be. People who control everything have both the power and the money. They have everything. There's very little incentive for them to start and do something else. And this, sometimes it feels like they're just like just starting fires throughout history just for humans to put it out. We're thinking, what's going on really? What is it? Why are they telling us the truth in the movies? Why are they letting us do some things? Like, have you thought about us having access to the technology, what we do now? What's the point of us having access to the internet? You know what it takes for them to shut down the internet? There's like 4 or 5 hubs, 4 or 5 cables under the sea that they need to cut. And then it's gone. There's no more internet. And they could take it away the same way as they take away the freedom of speech. So why are we allowed to do this? And there's more examples like this. Like, why are we allowed to, to exchange ideas that are detrimental to their system? And it's a question whether it's all just chaotic conflict of interest, and we're trying to, create some sort of a theory that will explain it, or whether it's just something so well organized that we think it's chaos, but it's planned chaos. So,
you have to entertain the alternative idea that we construct these enemies and villains ourselves in our own minds, because it's, I don't know, makes us feel a bit better if we just picture them as evil psychopaths. But there is this comedian named Jester Reed who I quite like, who has her own podcast called Soberish that I listen to, where she talks about a lot of spiritual things as well. And she had this near-death experience where when she died, she was in like this big, she says, this big blue ball of vibrating blue light. And she started speaking to interdimensional beings that told her that this reality was just a game, that we'd come here to this planet or dimension to learn lessons, which was weird, because I was hearing all this stuff around about that time I discovered your video and your videos and your channel. And she proposed the idea that we nearly woke up in the late 90s, but then 9/11 happened and people went back to sleep. They went back to their fear-based reality, and that's why you had films like The Matrix and Truman Show coming out in the late 90s. I mean, it's a theory that definitely resonates with me, for sure.
That's if you look at this from this perspective, then it makes perfect sense. But for me personally, 9/11 was a